Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to the SCT YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be walking you through how to create a really fun space-themed card using some of my brand new solar sprays. I'm going to share some really fun techniques on how to use these and get great looks on black cardstock. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so to start out, I'm going to use the Starry Night product suite, which has a die along with an embossing folder that will fit through a Scout machine, and it also has a set of 3 stencils that will color all of these stars in. So you can either use both of these products separately or combine them together to color everything in and get a really great look. I'm going to show you how to use it with or without the embossing folder today. So to start out, let me show you how to use an embossing folder like this. So we're going to open up the embossing folder, and I'm turning it over to the side that has my name printed on it. That's the way that I find it easiest to put this die inside of here. So if you want to use it along with this die, that's going to give it a really beautiful cut edge. And all you're going to do is take the die and kind of click it into this area in the embossing folder. There's a little spot in this molded design that has that line, and so you'll kind of feel it click into place, and that's how you know it's locked in and ready to go. And to make sure that it stays put during the die cutting, I like to go in with a little bit of Scrapbook.com's mint tape and just hold this in place. That's going to really make sure that this doesn't move anywhere while we're die cutting, and don't worry about covering up the blades with the tape because it'll cut right through it once you put the pressure on. Alright, next I'm going to bring in a piece of the Distress Black Heavy Stock cardstock, and I'm just going to place it right into this embossing folder on that design area. And it's just slightly bigger than the folder, and that's totally fine because the embossing folder will end up cutting down the cardstock anyways. So that looks perfect. So then to do the embossing, I'm going to go in with my Simon Hurley Black Platinum Scout that I created with Spellbinders. It's a really great sleek black machine, but I love the Scout machine because it's nice and small, but it still has the metal rollers inside of here, so it's just as strong as other regular platinum machines. It's just so handy to be able to set on my desk, and it's a much smaller footprint, so I keep it on my desk at all times. For embossing, I'm going to place down the A platform base. Then I'm going to place in my Spellbinders 3D embossing folder right inside. And lastly, I'll place down my D adapter plate, which is this hard gray plate. And that's going to be my sandwich for the 3D embossing folders from Spellbinders. Every brand of embossing folder is a little bit different in thickness, so you'll just have to check with the manufacturer to see what you need to do to run it through. And then we'll just quickly and easily run this right through the die cutting machine to do our embossing. And it goes through nice and smooth. All right, then when we lift this out, check it out. It cuts that out really nicely. So you've got that really great cut edge along those stars, and it embosses all of that beautiful texture of those stars. Absolutely gorgeous. And I find that the tape lasts a couple times running it through the embossing folder before you need to replace it, or you can pull that die out and use it without the die to get the embossed design with no cut edge. So this folder is really great and super versatile. All right, next I want to do some stenciling. So I'm going to bring in my Altenew sticky grid mat. I love this because it grips down to my cardstock as I'm using it, so it'll make stenciling really easy. With these Starry Night stencils, they have little etchings in the corner as well as the numbers, so you know how to align them really easily and make sure that everything is the right way up. So I'll just look through the stencil and line up the design, and then I'm going to stick the edge down into that sticky mat really easily. Now we can go in and use our solar sprays. We just released these brand new 6 colors that are absolutely gorgeous, really nice bright shades. And of course there's also all 6 original shades too, so you really have quite a few color options as you're spraying with these. All of these are going to be a clear translucent spray that has a shifting mica inside of it, so you can really only see the color when you tilt it in the light. It's going to be much bolder on black cardstock and much more subtle on white cardstock, but these are really great for creating shimmery effects on top of your card projects. With any of them, they kind of have this white sludge at the bottom, which is all of the beautiful mica inside of the spray. So they've all got a little mixing ball inside of the bottle, and you just need to shake that up until everything is nice and mixed together. So once that mica is all off the bottom, you're ready to start spraying. I'm going to start off with this new color called Twin Flame and mist this down. Now, as I mist the solar sprays, especially through stencils like this, I'm going to just be sure to move my spray along the surface as I spray it to get a nice even spray and to not overspray through the stencil. On this layer, I'm also going to use a little cross my heart at the top and bottom of the stencil, so I'll just spray that down. Yeah, quite a bit of mist going on here, and then we'll just lift that right off the surface once we're all done spraying. All right, that is looking stunning so far with all the color that we have. You can also take the stencil with all the extra spray that we have on that stencil and just flip it right over onto a card project and give it some good pressure and then set this off to the side to dry. I like to leave it on the surface and not lift it off right away, and then you'll get a really beautiful result with that excess spray. I'll show you that in just a little bit. In between layers, I'm just gonna clean up by spraying it with a little bit of water and wiping down that sticky mat to clean it off nice and easily. And then you can let this air dry, but I'm just gonna go in with a heat tool in between layers to just kind of help speed this along so we can keep doing our stenciling. All right, that first layer is looking gorgeous already. It's hard to capture on camera, but you can really see the difference between that bright orange and the red when you tilt it in the light. All right, then once this background is dry, check out what that looks like. That's so cool. It almost creates like kind of a nebula effect, and then you can still see those star designs. So then imagine you can grab the other layering stencils and kind of layer more stars on top with paste and finish off this design really beautifully. But I love that kind of swirl that I got in there. But when you leave that design on there and let it dry, then you get those really great kind of exact stars rather than lifting it off too early and kind of puddling the color in one area. This is super cool. All right, then we'll lay our project right back down and we'll go in with stencil number 2. And again, just look right through to see and line it up with all those stars and then place it down into that sticky mat. For this next layer, I'm going to use a little bit of Pity Party and Royal Flush, which is a light pinkish lavender, and this really great deep purple. And then again, make sure you shake it before you go in the sprays so you don't see any of that mica on the bottom. And then we'll go in and just start misting this down. And again, move your sprayer as you're misting to get a nice light mist over your whole project. And then we'll go in with Pity Party and do the same thing. Kind of blend those colors together to get a nice fusion of color. All right, then we'll lift this off the surface nice and slowly. That is looking amazing with those purple sprays. And then we'll just place this down and make sure it's nice and in place before we do our sprays. All right, for this, I'm gonna use Sublime and Golden Hour, which is kind of like a lime greenish yellow and a really great bold gold color. So I'm gonna spray down a little bit of yellow, and then I'll move into Sublime and kind of fill in the rest of the area with this great greenish gold. All right, then we'll carefully lift this off one last time. Oh, that's looking amazing. And now we have all of our stenciling done. All right, and check out just how gorgeous that looks when you tilt that in the light. You can really see all of the beautiful colors. And sometimes my camera doesn't show it well enough, so I'm gonna bring out my iPhone too and just show you how amazing this looks. So I mean, check that out. You can really see the difference in all of those intense and amazing colors when you see them on the iPhone. They're really nice and bold. On that black cardstock, they really stand out so well and really beautifully. All right, and like I've been saying, cleanup is pretty easy with these sprays. They're water soluble and reactive, so a little bit of water is going to clean them off of your tools and mats and surfaces. So just make sure to do a nice cleaning in between your projects. All right, for this next technique, I want to show you a really cool technique using the solar sprays in a way you might not have thought to create another really great galaxy background that will then turn into a card. All right, so I picked some colors that I want to use for my galaxy background here. I'll go through in case you want to follow along. I'm using Golden Hour, Neptune, Sublime, Deep End, Pity Party, Royal Flush, and Beluga to get a really great kind of nighttime galaxy sky look. And then for all these colors, I'll just take them all at once and just give them a really good shake to mix them around and make sure there's no mica at the bottom of the sprays. And then we can start our spraying. So I'm gonna start off with a little bit of Neptune and really just pile on quite a bit of the spray all over this background. Then I'll move into some Sublime, mix those together. That's like that really great kind of lime greenish color that'll go well with the blue. And let's do a little bit of Golden Hour, kind of right near that green color. This is gonna give a little bit more yellow. And then we'll keep adding more blues and purples to kind of darken up the background. We've got a little bit of Deep End, which is gonna bring a little bit more of a deeper blue. We'll bring in a little bit of pink for Pity Party to kind of give that kind of galactic mix of colors in there. Same thing with a little bit of Royal Flush is gonna bring in just a little bit of purple. And you can also take these little kind of spray triggers and just spray them just really slightly to get more of kind of a globby spray that doesn't go as far out. And then lastly, we'll bring in some Beluga to just darken up some of those blues all around. And then we'll start heat setting it. And if you want to kind of blend the colors, you can add a little bit of water in here to get them kind of mixing and mingling a little bit more. It's really up to you. And then I'll just heat set this to help it dry. All right, so once we've got the background all completed, here is what it looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. It looks like a galaxy already with all of kind of the blotches of colors. I love that when you spray sprays down, they kind of react how they want to and move around, and that mica is kind of moving and blending. and you just get this beautiful blend of color together. Now I'm going to go in with the Starry Night stencils, and I'm not going to use them with the embossing folder this time. So let's start off with stencil number 3. We can always work our way down to stencil number 2. I'm again going to line it up just in the corner here using those little etched markings, just so I know roughly where that stencil is. And then I'm just going to grab some of this 4-inch masking tape just to mask off the other side of it. This stuff's pretty handy from scrapbook.com. And I'm just going to lay that down over on this side, just gently to hold that stencil down in place and make sure nothing's gonna move. Then we'll take just a little bit of water and really lightly mist. Like I'm talking 1 or 2 really light mists of water. And like I said, this spray reacts with water. So then I'm gonna go in with my microfiber cloth and I'm just going to lightly use that little tiny bit of water that we sprayed down to start blotting off this color. And you're going to actually need to rub through the stencil. That's why I like this microfiber cloth. It tends to get kind of into the details rather than a paper towel would, and just start removing that color. If you don't go in and rub, it's not going to remove that color. It's not like an ink where it just naturally reacts. You actually need to go in and kind of scrub a little bit to get that mica off and remove it. All right, then we'll lift off that masking tape and lift this up and check that out. It's such a really fun technique. It's so cool how it removes that color and almost looks like a chalkboard underneath. I really love how that turns out. So then I can go in with that same stencil and kind of line it up over at the other side. Then I'll use that same piece of mint masking tape to kind of just hold things in place while we do our light mist of water across the surface. Again, 1 or 2 mists goes a long way. If you mist more than that, you're actually risking the chance of the design not being clear and the water really seeping underneath. So 1 or 2 mists is gonna go a really long way when it comes to removing the design like this. And then go in with your microfiber cloth and just get into those details and start removing that mica from the surface. It removes that color in such a great pattern and really shows off that star design once you've done it. All right, and these stencils still will layer up. So now I'm going in with stencil number 2, and I'm going to again put that etched marking up in the corner there, so it's gonna line up exactly how it should. And then I'm gonna go in with my mint tape to lightly hold things down as we mist a little bit of water right through our stencil and start removing that mica color from our surface. Lift this off and check it out. All right, and there's still 1 layering stencil left here. So for this one, I want to go in with some Astro Paste, which is a beautiful glitter paste that's going to add some really great dimension and sparkle to our design. So I'm going in with stencil number 1. We'll make sure it's orientated the same way that we had the other ones. And again, line it up in the corner there with those etched markings. That's really gonna be super helpful with lining this up. Then we'll go in with a little bit of mint tape to just make sure this is nicely held down before we do our paste. All right, then we'll go in with our Astro Paste in the color Cookie Dough. I love this Cookie Dough color because it's a really great neutral and it's gonna be nice and warm, but it's not like too yellow or anything. So it just gives a really great kind of neutral, sparkly, almost pearlish look. I really love this cookie dough color. And I'll just scrape this on using the little palette knife from our paste tool set to get it nice and smooth across the surface. Then we'll lift this right off, and now we've got those beautiful stars in between all the stars that were removed from the design. All right, I'm gonna wanna clean up in between layers, so I'll just spray down a little bit of water. That really helps to kind of clean off all of this glitter paste and kind of break it down. You wanna do this before anything dries, so nice and quickly. And then luckily, all my pastes are pretty heat stable, so I'm gonna go in with a heat tool. I like to use this little Ranger heat tool because it disperses the heat a little bit more. Make sure to keep it moving as you heat set this, but I'm just going to lightly heat set this paste to aid it along in the drying process so that we can move on to adding more stars to this side as well. And since I'm very impatient, this is super helpful to help dry it along in the process. And I mean, check out just how gorgeous those beautiful Astro Paste stars are once they're all dry. There is so much sparkle, and like I said, that cookie dough is like the perfect pearly color. I'm loving it on this background. All right, then we're gonna line up the stencil on the other side here, and then I'll make sure to hold it down using a little bit more of our mint tape. And then again, I'll just take a little bit more of that Astro Paste in that cookie dough color and spread it right through our stencil using the palette knife. And we'll lift this right off, and we finished off the stars on the other side. All right, and then once everything is all dry, check out that gorgeous background. I love all of the solar sprays underneath to create that really great galaxy look, and removing the colors to get those black stars in the background, and then adding even more stars using the Astro Paste really levels up all of the beautiful layers in this background. To finish off this card, I'm gonna grab a Simon Hurley Stark White card base. This is the top folding card base base. It's already pre-cut and scored, so you just have to fold it over and then grab a bone folder to crease it down. This saves me tons of time while crafting to have these pre-cut and scored just like this. Then to adhere my background down, I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue to make sure it's nice and secure after a little bit of warping after all those sprays. And whenever I like to add a background down that's going to cover the whole card on a top folding card base, I always start at the top corner, line it along that edge, and then it should align with the rest of the card really easily. That looks perfect. Now let's talk about creating the focal point for our card. I'm going to be using the To the Moon die set, which has this adorable little rocket ship inside of here that we can create. And now I want the actual base of the rocket ship to have a little bit of kind of a bluish glow to it. So this is a perfect piece for the rocket ship. I'm using Spellbinder's color wheel cardstock, so just varying shades of that. My favorite cardstock by far to use for die cutting because it's nice and thick, and they got some great color options. Right here, I'm starting off with a gray color, and I think I'm gonna use, let's use Deep End for this. So I'm just gonna make sure to shake this to make sure there's no mica on the bottom. And then I'll mist this down. And to mist this, again, I'm gonna go from a little bit of a distance this time, and then just mist it a couple of times to kind of change the shine of that cardstock to this beautiful blue color. And this is really cool. I wanted to show you what the solar spray looks like on kind of a whitish cardstock too. So you can see it, you can barely see it when you're looking straight on. And then when you tilt it in the light, you get all of that beautiful colored shine. In person, that really shines blue as well. It's a little hard to see the actual color shine on camera. It's a lot more subtle than the black cardstock, but still really cool to add to card projects. Okay, so for the base of this rocket ship, I'm gonna cut it out of this light gray cardstock that we've sprayed. And then for all of the accessory pieces, I'm gonna use this mid-tone gray color and cut out all of like the wings and hardware pieces of the rocket ship. And again, I'm using the Platinum Scout to die cut this out, which makes it super easy, and you can really fit a lot of little dies all throughout this machine, which is awesome. And whenever I'm die cutting, I like to put all of the little tiny pieces inside of these stack and sort trays from Spellbinders. Makes it really easy to organize and find everything. Then I'll die cut this little window out of some light blue. I'll die cut these wings again out of some mid-tone blue, and then the flames out of some yellow. Then lastly, we'll cut the flames out of some darker yellowish orange and recut this little window piece out of some white. To make the little wings on this rocket ship stand out, I'm gonna do a little bit of shading using, well, shady ink, and add just a little bit of this darker gray color on one side of the wings to add some dimension to them. So like on these guys, I'll add the shading where it connects to the body of the rocket ship. And it's just the little details like this that might take a little extra time, but it really makes these die cuts look 3D when you add shading to them like this. For this guy, I'm gonna add a little bit on either edge. That's gonna make it look nice and round. All right, now let's start by adding all these pieces together. I'm gonna start off with the window on this little guy. So I'm just gonna add some liquid glue onto the back around the window of this rocket ship. And we'll place in that large dark gray window that we cut out and center it around there. Then there's a little etched circle inside of here. We're gonna add some liquid glue inside of there and then add that little blue circle down into the center. A little more liquid glue, and then we'll add that little white dot that we cut out right inside. So there's a little window on the rocket ship. Now there's some etched lines where all of the little pieces should go. So we'll add a little liquid glue and add those little bolt strips right along on the rocket ship. Then we'll add some glue to the top of the rocket ship, and we're gonna add this little blue accent right on top. Then we'll add the little like muffler type thing to the bottom. So add a little liquid glue to the back, and then we'll glue right on that little engine. And to make the flame, there's a little embossed line inside where we can add that smaller, darker flame that we've cut out. Again, we'll just glue that right underneath to be coming out of the bottom of the rocket ship. All right, there's a little etched line on the bottom where you can add this little fin down. And then each one of these has little etched lines on it, so we'll add some glue onto it and then glue these onto the back coming from either side of the rocket ship. All right, then I've added this up on some foam tape, and I'm just gonna make that rocket ship kind of flying across the top of that card. Perfect, and we'll adhere that down. That's gonna pop it up really nicely off the card. And then for the sentiment on this card, I'm gonna go into this Space Friend stamp set. This has a lot of really great space images with different cats and dogs, and then a bunch of more sophisticated kind of little rocket ships and stuff down here. But I love all the sentiments inside of this as well. And I wanna use the one that says, "Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars." I think that's perfect for this card and super inspiring. I love those encouraging sentiments. And for the stamping, I want to do a little bit of white heat embossing onto this piece of blue cardstock that coordinates with the little color at the top of the rocket ship we created. So I'm using my anti-static powder tool to make sure nothing sticks where we don't want it to. And then I'll ink this up with a little bit of clear sticky Versamark ink and stamp it right down onto our colored cardstock. I think this is gonna match the project perfectly. Then I'll sprinkle on a little bit of the white heat embossing powder, tap off any of the excess, and then we'll heat set this until it's nice and bright white. And then whenever I do a sentiment like this, I like to just go in with my Fiskars Spring Assist scissors and just loosely cut around the sentiment. This helps give it a nice finished look and allows you to see more of your background rather than just leaving it on a large rectangle of cardstock. And then let's finish it off by placing that sentiment right down, centered at the bottom of the card. That looks perfect. Here's a closer look at that finished card. I'm obsessed with all of that beautiful shimmery solar spray in the background, how we were able to remove the solar spray using some water in the pattern of that starry night, and then add even more texture with the Astro Paste stars to really make them sparkle. That To the Moon die set is so fun and playful, and I love that we were even able to add a little bit of solar spray and show you what it looks like on that white cardstock. That solar spray just adds so much great shine, and I can't wait to send this finished card out. Thank you all so much for joining me for today's YouTube video, sharing tons of tips and tricks using solar spray and even incorporating some Astro Paste onto my card project. Be sure to leave a comment down below letting me know which technique was your favorite from today's video, and also down there is a full supplies list to everything that I used in today's video. Also, if you want to see more videos like this one from me, be sure to check out my YouTube channel, Simon Hurley, where there's tons of more card making and crafting tutorials. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you soon. Bye!